Good morning. There comes a moment in life when everything pauses. The noise quiets down, the distractions fade, and you're left with just you. Your fears, your dreams, and the echo of a question. Who am I meant to be? Let me tell you something I've learned not from ease, but from the broken places. I learned it lying still, when movement was taken from me, and I had to move the mountains within me. The journey of becoming starts not with the world outside, but with belief. The quiet, unwavering kind. The kind that survives silence, endures failure, and dares to bloom in the dark. Believe not in perfection, not in what others expect of you, but in your ability to rise, bruised perhaps, but not broken. Believe that even your pain has a purpose, that scars are not symbols of weakness, but of the battles you survived. Let the world see them. Let the world know. This is how you fight with grace. Then, my friend, become. Become the version of yourself that you've hidden beneath fear. Not the one the world told you to be, but the one your soul knows you are. That becoming is messy. You will lose people. You will lose parts of yourself. But what you gain, it is freedom. Become someone who chooses compassion over comparison. Become someone who sits with their pain long enough to understand it, then uses it to heal others. Become the voice you once needed to hear. And once you believe and begin to become, something magical happens. You belong not to a place, not to a group, but to yourself. You stop asking for permission to exist. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces not meant for you. You stop proving your worth because you know it. You belong in rooms where authenticity is louder than appearance. You belong in conversations that are soft enough for vulnerability and strong enough for truth. You belong wherever your soul feels safe to shine. Let me leave you with this. Your story, however shattered it may seem, is still yours, and it is enough. Carry it with pride. Let it teach. Let it inspire. Let it guide. Believe in the power within you. Become who you were born to be, and never forget. You already belong. Belief is a quiet force. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or fanfare. It doesn't need to. It sits silently inside you, waiting. And yet, belief is the birthplace of every transformation. But here's what we're often not told. The kind of belief that changes your life isn't in perfection. It's in resilience. We live in a world obsessed with the flawless, perfect faces, perfect lives, perfect achievements, curated and displayed like trophies behind the glass screen of our phones. From a very young age, we are taught to chase perfection like it's the prize. We are told to be the best, look the best, achieve the best. And so, we start measuring ourselves with rulers that don't even belong to us. We forget that growth isn't about appearing untouched, it's about standing even when we're bruised. Especially when we're bruised, believing in resilience means knowing that broken does not mean unworthy. It means understanding that the cracks in your life are not shameful. They're sacred. They let the light in. Every time you fall and get back up. Every time you cry but still try again. Every time you feel like giving up but choose not to. You are practicing belief. A belief that whispers, this is not the end. There's more to you. This belief doesn't come easily. Often it arrives through pain, through moments that shake the ground beneath your feet, moments when the world doesn't applaud, moments when you are alone, staring at your reflection, wondering who you are now that the image you had of yourself has shattered. But it's in these moments that resilience begins to breathe. There is something deeply beautiful about the human spirit. It bends, it aches, it shatters, but it doesn't give up. And the moment you begin to see your scars not as imperfections, but as stories of strength, something within you shifts. You stop needing to be perfect. You start wanting to be real. Realness is where resilience lives. You are not defined by your worst day. You are not defined by the voice that once said you wouldn't make it. You are not defined by the times you couldn't smile through the pain. You are defined by your ability to keep showing up, to keep choosing life even when it feels heavy. That is resilience. That is what makes you powerful. It's easy to believe in yourself when everything is going right. It's easy to have faith when doors open easily and people praise your journey, but real belief, the kind that roots itself deep into your soul, is born when nothing makes sense and you choose to keep going anyway. That belief is not loud. It doesn't need to be. It's the kind of belief that sits with you quietly in the dark and reminds you that dawn is still coming, even if you can't see it yet. When you stop chasing perfection and start embracing your resilience, your entire world begins to change. You become less afraid of failing because you understand that failure isn't final. It's feedback. You begin to stop comparing your path to others because you realize your journey was never meant to look like anyone else's. You stop shrinking to fit in because you know that your truth as it is has space in this world. And belief in resilience does not mean ignoring your pain. It means looking it in the eye and saying, I see you, but you don't define me. It means holding your own hand through the storm. It means forgiving yourself when you fall short and reminding yourself that you're allowed to grow at your own pace. Some days, resilience is loud. It's pushing through, making things happen, standing tall. Other days, resilience is gentle. It's resting when your soul needs it. It's crying without guilt. It's letting go of the need to be strong all the time and allowing yourself to simply be. When you begin to live from this kind of belief, you stop needing to be impressive and start needing to be authentic. You give yourself permission to be imperfect and human, and that's when real power rises. Because there is nothing stronger than someone who knows their worth even in their lowest moments. People will tell you to believe in your dreams, your goals, your ambitions. And you should. But before all of that, believe in your ability to rise. Believe in your capacity to heal. Believe in the version of you that survived what was meant to destroy you. Believe that every step you've taken, even the ones that felt like stumbles, were part of your becoming. This belief won't always feel strong. Some days it will feel like a whisper. Other days it will feel like a roar, but it will be yours, not borrowed from the world, not dependent on validation. It will be born from every time you've faced something difficult and chosen not to give up. And it's important to remember resilience is not the absence of struggle. It's the ability to face it, to sit with it, to let it shape you without hardening you. The people who shine the brightest are often the ones who have walked through the darkest nights. They've bled, they've cried, they've fallen, but they chose to rise. So when you look in the mirror, don't search for perfection. Search for evidence of strength. Search for the parts of you that carried on when everything inside you screamed to stop. Search for the moments you laughed even with a heavy heart, for the mornings you got out of bed when you didn't think you could, for the quiet bravery of simply continuing. That is what belief in resilience looks like. Perfection is a moving target. It shifts with every trend, every opinion, every new standard the world creates. But resilience is timeless. It is rooted in who you are, not what you achieve. It is the story of your soul rising again and again, rewriting itself with each storm, transforming pain into purpose. Becoming the person your soul remembers is not about inventing someone new. It's about uncovering who you have always been beneath the noise, the fear, the expectation. It's not about adding layers, but about peeling them away. It's about returning to that inner voice you had before the world told you who to be. The one that whispered wild dreams, that believed in magic, that didn't yet know the weight of judgment. That voice is still inside you. It's just waiting for permission to be heard again. So much of life pushes us to forget who we truly are. We are born with curiosity, openness, and an instinct to love and connect. We laugh without holding back, we ask questions without shame, we cry without apology. But somewhere along the way we learn to hide those parts. We are taught to be realistic, to fit in, to be liked, to be productive. We begin to wear masks not out of deception but out of survival, and slowly we forget, but your soul doesn't forget. It remembers the child who danced without music, the dreamer who imagined entire worlds in silence. The heart that was once unafraid to love first, beneath the layers of your adult armor, that person still lives. And becoming them again is not regression, it's a return to truth. To become the person your soul remembers, you must first sit in stillness. Not the kind of silence that isolates, but the kind that listens. In stillness, your soul begins to speak again. You may hear a longing, a nudge, a sense that there is more to you than your current reality allows. This feeling doesn't scream, it hums gently, and it will persist until you answer it. Becoming doesn't happen overnight. It is a process of unlearning, of shedding beliefs that no longer serve you. Maybe you were told you're too sensitive, so you buried your emotions. Maybe you were told your dreams were unrealistic, so you stopped dreaming. Maybe you were told to be strong all the time, so you stopped asking for help. These beliefs are not truths. They are wounds in disguise. And becoming is the process of healing them. You do this by reconnecting with your inner world, by questioning everything you've accepted as permanent, by giving yourself permission to evolve beyond what others expected of you. This requires courage, it requires disappointing people, it requires facing the fear of being misunderstood, but in doing so, you start to align your life with who you truly are, not who you've been performing to be. You begin to notice what feels heavy and what feels light. You start to choose what nourishes your spirit over what impresses the crowd. You begin to crave meaning over perfection, connection over approval, truth over comfort. And slowly, you stop pretending. There will be grief in this process. Grief for the time lost living someone else's idea of you. Grief for the friendships that may fade because you no longer fit the mold they knew. Grief for the roles you outgrow, but there will also be immense freedom. Freedom in being able to breathe fully again, to speak without editing yourself, to wake up and recognize the face in the mirror. Becoming is not a destination, it is a daily choice. It's waking up and choosing your truth even when it's inconvenient. It's honoring your emotions even when they don't make sense. It's trusting your instincts even when logic protests. It's loving yourself, not just when you feel worthy, but especially when you don't. It also means accepting all parts of yourself, not just the bright, shiny, presentable ones. The person your soul remembers is not flawless. They've made mistakes, they've been hurt, they've hurt others, but they've grown, they've learned, and they carry a wisdom that only pain can teach. To become that person, you must forgive yourself. You must meet your past with compassion, not judgment. You must allow yourself to evolve without punishing yourself for who you were. You don't have to do it all at once. Sometimes becoming looks like setting one boundary, saying one honest sentence, taking one quiet step toward a dream you buried. Sometimes it looks like resting, like slowing down long enough to hear what your heart has been trying to say, like walking away from something that no longer feels like home. And in this process you might feel alone, but you are never truly alone. The path to becoming often feels lonely because you're choosing to walk your own way. But in that solitude, something sacred is happening. You're learning to trust yourself. You're learning to carry yourself. You're learning that your worth is not tied to how well you please others, but how deeply you live your truth. And as you do this, the world around you begins to shift, not because it changes, but because you do. You start attracting people who see the real you, not the version you had to project. You find yourself in spaces that celebrate your authenticity. You begin to feel at peace, not because life is easy, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. You will have to remind yourself often, you are not here to be a carbon copy. You are not here to meet every expectation. You are not here to apologize for your light, your softness, your fire, your rhythm. You are here to be fully, wildly, unapologetically you, and that you is not hidden in some distant future. They are waiting inside you. They are not someone you need to create. They are someone you need to remember. You don't have to prove yourself to become that person. You just have to come back home to yourself, to walk through the fears, the doubts, the noise, and choose to listen to your soul over the world. You'll know you're becoming that person when peace feels more important than control, when honesty feels more natural than performance, when alignment feels more urgent than achievement, when your definition of success begins to include joy, rest, purpose, and presence. You will start to feel whole, not because you have all the answers, but because you're finally asking the right questions. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are real. Not because you've arrived, but because you are becoming. Belonging to yourself before the world is an act of quiet revolution. It is a decision that often happens in silence, in the moments when you realize that the world's applause cannot fill the emptiness of self-abandonment. It is the shift from performing to aligning, from pleasing to being. To belong to yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. Because when you don't belong to yourself, you will spend your life chasing places, people, and roles in search of a home you carry within. We are taught early to seek belonging outside of ourselves. We seek validation from parents, teachers, peers, and later from employers, partners, social circles, and online strangers. We measure our worth through approval. We adapt ourselves in subtle ways, smiling when we want to cry, nodding when we want to speak, staying when our soul is screaming to leave. We learn to be likable before we learn to be real. And slowly, without noticing, we trade authenticity for acceptance. But there comes a point when the weight of pretending becomes too heavy, when the smiles begin to crack, when the crowd's applause fades and we are left with the question, who am I when no one is watching? That is the moment belonging begins, not outwardly, but inwardly. It is the moment you start to turn inward for home. Belonging to yourself means reclaiming your inner authority. It means deciding that your opinion of you matters more than the assumptions of others. It means listening to your body, your intuition, your needs. It means honoring your limits without guilt. It is choosing to show up as your full self, even when the room was not built to hold you. It is choosing not to shrink. To belong to yourself, you must first meet yourself. That means looking at the parts you've hidden, not with judgment, but with tenderness. It means unlearning the belief that you must earn your worth. It means facing the fears that have kept you small, the fear of rejection, of being misunderstood, of being alone. Because only by facing those fears can you find the freedom on the other side. This kind of belonging is not loud. It doesn't need a stage or a spotlight. It's the quiet knowing that you are enough, that your worth is not conditional, that your presence is not a burden, but a gift. It's a soft strength, a grounded presence, a sense of self that cannot be shaken by other people's opinions. There will be resistance, not just from the world, but from within. There will be a part of you conditioned to believe that pleasing is safety, that if you just stay small, stay agreeable, stay quiet, you will be loved. That part of you will protest when you choose yourself, but that's okay. Belonging to yourself is not about being fearless. It's about being honest, even in fear. It's about setting boundaries and standing by them. Saying no when your soul says no, even if your voice shakes. It's about speaking your truth even when it trembles. It's about trusting that the people who are meant for you will not require you to hide who you are. That real connection does not ask you to shrink. It invites you to expand. When you begin to belong to yourself, something powerful happens. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop chasing people who don't see you. You stop tolerating spaces where you have to fight to be heard. You stop begging for crumbs of acceptance because you are now feeding yourself from within. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself from the world. It means you meet the world from a place of wholeness. You stop asking, will they like me? And start asking, does this feel like truth? You stop molding yourself to fit into rooms that were never designed for your light. You become more intentional about where you go, who you engage with, and how you spend your energy. And in that process, you begin to find your people. Not the ones who love the mask, but the ones who see your soul and say, yes, that's who I've been waiting for. You build connections rooted in truth, not performance. Relationships where you don't have to translate yourself, where your presence is not just tolerated but celebrated. Belonging to yourself also means embracing the parts of you that are still in progress. It's not about arriving at some perfect version of you. It's about accepting yourself in every stage, messy, healing, growing, learning. It's about realizing that even in your uncertainty, you are still whole. That even when you're figuring things out, you still deserve to take up space. This journey is not linear. Some days you will feel deeply connected to yourself. Other days you will feel lost again. That's part of it. Belonging to yourself is not a final destination. It's a daily practice. It's the decision to return to yourself again and again with compassion. Sometimes it looks like choosing solitude over company that drains you. Sometimes it looks like writing your truth in a journal when you're too afraid to speak it out loud. Sometimes it looks like standing up for yourself even when your hands are shaking. Other times, it's simply sitting with your feelings instead of escaping them. You will start to notice how your relationship with the world shifts. You will walk into rooms differently. You will carry yourself with a quiet confidence that says, "I know who I am." Not in arrogance, but in presence. You will become less reactive to judgment, less hungry for external validation, more grounded in your own knowing. The more you belong to yourself, the less you feel the need to explain yourself. And in a world that often tells you to conform, choosing to belong to yourself is radical. It's a statement of trust. It's saying, I may not be everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. I am mine. It's understanding that your uniqueness is not something to edit. It is something to embrace. This belonging is not built in the moments when everything is going well. It is built in the quiet resilience of choosing yourself when it's hard. It is built when you walk away from things that hurt your spirit, when you honor your truth even when it costs you comfort. When you keep coming home to yourself, no matter how far you've strayed. Let your scars speak of strength, not shame. That is not just a poetic line. It is a radical way of living. It means choosing to see your pain through the lens of power. It means refusing to hide the parts of your story that have shaped you. It means knowing that your scars are not symbols of brokenness, but of healing. They are not reminders of what hurt you. They are proof that you lived through it. We live in a world that loves to cover things up. Pain is disguised behind perfect pictures. Struggle is softened into vague captions. Tears are hidden in bathrooms and behind closed doors. We're taught to mask our grief, to bury our trauma, to smile through the ache. And so we begin to believe that our scars make us less worthy, less lovable, less complete. We internalize the idea that to be admired, we must appear untouched, but untouched is not real, untouched is not honest. And it is certainly not powerful. Your scars are the map of your becoming. Each one tells a story, not of defeat, but of survival. You bled and you healed. You broke and you mended. You fell and you rose. That is strength, not the absence of pain, but the presence of courage in the midst of it. Not the lack of wounds, but the willingness to keep going despite them. There's a quiet dignity in scars. They whisper truths we don't always want to say out loud. That we've been through things we didn't think we could handle, that we've seen darkness, that we've lost, been betrayed, been abandoned, been silenced, but we are still here, still breathing, still becoming. And yet, so many of us spend our lives trying to hide those very marks. We edit our stories. We change the subject when conversations get too deep. We pretend. We try to become versions of ourselves that are easier for others to digest. But in doing so, we rob ourselves of something sacred, the chance to be known, truly known, and true connection can only exist in truth. When you allow your scars to speak of strength, you take back the narrative. You reclaim power over what tried to silence you. You decide that your past is not something to apologize for. You stop hiding. You start showing up as your full self. History, heartache, healing, and all. This doesn't mean you have to tell everyone everything. Strength doesn't always roar. It sometimes whispers. Sometimes it's in the quiet decision to show up even when you feel fragile. Sometimes it's in the courage to say, "This happened and I'm still healing." Sometimes it's simply in choosing not to be ashamed anymore, because shame is not yours to carry. Shame is the lie pain tries to plant in us, that we are less than, that we are defined by what hurt us, that if people knew our truth, they would turn away. But strength tells a different story. Strength says, "This is what I've lived through, and I'm proud of how far I've come." Strength says, "This is where I've been, and I choose to walk forward without hiding." It's easy to believe that others only want the polished version of us, but the truth is, people connect to what is real, to what is raw, to the cracks in your voice, the honesty in your eyes, the courage in your confession. Your scars don't push people away. They invite them closer. They say, "You're not alone." When we stop being ashamed of our pain, we open the door for others to do the same. We create spaces where vulnerability is not seen as weakness but as bravery, where we don't have to pretend to be okay when we're not, where healing is honored, not rushed, where being human is enough. Strength is not in pretending pain didn't happen. Strength is in the choice to grow through it, to find meaning in the mess, to let your suffering make you softer, not colder, to keep your heart open even after it's been bruised. That is power. That is grace. Your scars can become your teachers. They remind you of what you're capable of. They show you the depth of your resilience. They teach you compassion for yourself and for others. They give you perspective. They show you where you've come from. They keep you grounded, and most of all, they keep you connected to your truth and to your strength. Every time you share a part of your story, you take a layer of shame off. Every time you choose to see your scars as sacred, you shift the narrative for yourself and for others. You give others permission to do the same, to walk without hiding, to speak without fear, to live without masks. There will be moments when it's hard, when the world around you still celebrates perfection, when vulnerability feels like a risk. But the more you lean into your truth, the lighter you become. You stop carrying the burden of pretense. You start embracing the freedom of authenticity. And freedom is exactly what your soul is longing for. The freedom to be whole, not flawless. The freedom to be fully seen and still fully loved. The freedom to embrace the journey with all its detours and darkness. The freedom to say, "This happened to me, but it doesn't define me." Your scars are not a source of shame. They are symbols of your evolution. They are reminders of the chapters you've overcome. They are proof that you didn't give up, and they will continue to be part of your strength, not in spite of what they represent, but because of it. When you begin to live this way, you begin to walk differently. You don't flinch at your reflection. You don't apologize for your truth. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. You carry your story with grace. You walk with the wisdom of someone who has seen darkness and still chooses light. You speak with the confidence of someone who knows their worth is not in their wounds, but in how they've risen beyond them.